is.
Hey, Harvey. Hey, Tanisha. Hey, Holly. Q. Bailey. What's up? All right, so we came on here because we want to talk about the framework that we created. Is this sustainable? We really want to talk about some of the things that have come up since we originally posted. More questions and topics to discuss. We also want to hear more about what you guys think and I gotta stop saying guys, what you folks think, and additional questions you may have about the framework. This is so weird being on two screens. Sorry. I'm a noob here with all of this. So I'm looking back and forth. So yeah, first of all, I want to say that I'm very proud of us. Like, this framework was something very big. It was something that really changed our mindsets, like shifted us in a big way. And I think, it's going to have a greater impact as we use it more for different projects. And, as we move forward in Black Minimalists, I think it's definitely, it's going to be a pretty awesome thing for us and for our community, for y'all.
Yeah, it's I'm proud of us too. This was the framework creation was a labor of love, and like I want to say a testament to our love for Black Minimalists and our friendship. Because
wait a minute, what?
Because the conversation was like cyclical, so
okay.
You only stick in friendships and like love of things when you feel like you keep coming back to things when you know that you love that thing. Like, people don't want to, like, go in circles, but some of creating this was, like, asking very similar questions over the span of a year. And then, like, going back and taking those questions and creating a framework to engage the stuff with.
Yeah. First of all, I thought you were saying that it tested our friendship.
No,
like you said
I'm not saying
I was saying, when?
It's a testament, not like, I was done with Yolanda after this.
Yeah, that is one of the great things I think about Black Minimalists is that, we have actually become like real life friends. We become real life friends, which also challenges the work that we do also, because sometimes we have to get a little personal and, call folks in and, make sure that they are, living up to the values that they said that they wanted to have in their lives.
Shout out to episode 1 of season 2 of our podcast. Where you can hear those real life conversations of being called in.
Yeah. Rhizomatic Movement Bus says, can you say a little about the framework? So we're actually going to move through each section of the framework as we do this conversation. So don't worry. Sit tight. So the first part, well, we created this because we realized, over the course of the time that we have been building Black Minimalists, that we haven't necessarily operated in the most sustainable way all the time. We had a lot of ideas and ambitions about what, we wanted Black Minimalists to be and what we wanted to do. But real life happens and not all of those things came to fruition. And so in developing this framework, we really had to think about how we could sustainably operate Black Minimalists, and give back to our community.
Yeah. And like, Tanika, sorry if I mispronounced your name, like, we as Black Minimalists as a community formally celebrated our first year anniversary in May. And we have been working together since the beginning of last year, really, to bring a full and robust community and lifestyle blog, like, to the internet around what it is to be a Black person who's with intentional living. And so thinking, like, for us, we were all doing this with different parts of our lives. At the beginning of this work, there were 5 of us, and we had very different lifestyles. A stay-at-home mom, a teacher, another mom, but like mom and like moving very much into like full-time blogging kind of situation. And so there have been lots of iterations of us trying to figure out how to do this work. And that, sometimes we were having weekly meetings, sometimes we were having bi-weekly meetings where we would be talking through the work of Black Minimalists, and certain questions from the framework would surface, and we would check into them, but sometimes check out of them because of trying to just get a thing done. And so this summer, I think, created a lot of opportunities for us to like really sit with the questions and create the framework. Like sit with the questions, create the framework, mostly because the main question came back to like, is this sustainable? So that gives you a little bit of a like journey of how we got to even the framework and the context.
Mm-hmm. And we wanted to be, working and living in our values. How can we create this community and be a voice for this community if we are not living up to the values that we promote?
Yes, because the main thing we always say, like, while we're different than any other minimalist blog probably that's out here, is like we always are calling people back into their values, and always centering our work around our values. So, I mean, other blogs exist and things of that nature, but like before we answer anybody's decluttering questions, we're always asking, like, but do you know your values though? Like, it doesn't really matter to declutter if you don't. And so that's like our alignment. And hopefully, the Rhizomatic movement does. Like, we answered just a little bit more about like the framework. So the framework's just questions that we've come up with really over the span of us doing Black Minimalists together, but formalized this summer in like some kind of structure so that we could interrogate our work.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, it's a framework for liberation, using minimalism as a tool.
Yes.
That's the bottom line of it. So let's get into these questions. The first question that we really asked ourselves is like, what is the most important work that we can be doing in this moment? Instead of trying to do what we think we're supposed to be doing, as a digital business, we had to ask the question of what is the most important work. And the goal is liberation. The purpose is liberation. But what is the work that we can be doing to work towards that?
Yeah. So, yeah. Talk about a big question to start up a framework.
What? Well, and over the course of the first year, and even into the summer, with the meetups that we did down south in Atlanta and Charleston, we realized that the work is giving our community the tools to do the work, like to build your own communities and address the topics that are specific to your communities.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm all up in y'all's face because I'm responding to comments.
Oh.
We new to it, but we gonna get this, y'all.
Yeah.
Dual life.
It might be easier to respond afterwards. Like, we can respond verbally to them if we see them. Because, we got a lot.
Yeah, we got a
lot to get through.
The framework is not little. Okay.
So, our purpose is to connect Black minimalists and give y'all a platform to do your work. And one of the questions that we're also going to be asking is like, you as community members, how can we make our platform available to you so that you can do your work and so that you can expand, what you're called to do with your own brands and businesses and life journeys? How can we be more of service to y'all?
Yes. because like we see you all like, and also know what it's like to be building a platform and to be trying to communicate a message, and we're here for the community. Like we're not here to be a thing. We're here because we believe in community and representation and wanting to be able to share these important stories.
Mm-hmm. And some of the questions that we asked y'all also through the little campaign that we did is like, do you agree that, you know, giving our community the tools to, you know, build their own communities is the most important work that we could be doing? You know, we could be wrong. Do you agree with that? And, you know, what is the work that you feel you're called to do? Like, what led you to the Black Minimalist community? And, you know, what do you feel is the most important work that you could be doing in this moment? You know, feel free to, you know, answer in the comments, or, you know, if you need to jot it down and, you know, write about it later, that's cool too. But we really want to know your thoughts on the work also.
Yeah. I'm like always curious about the ways in which people find us and like stick with us. So we've gotten to meet some of our community in person, and so have known that people just love to be able to see what we're doing, like see what other Black minimalists are doing. But I think for us, it's like, what's the point of doing something unless you know like the community is invested and the community is benefiting, and you can't do the work unless you have like a plan or a goal or some functioning around it. Tanika said, if the goal is liberation, then what exactly does liberation mean according to the Black Minimalists? Mm-hmm. Ooh, you found us via YouTube. Okay, that's a part of our community that sometimes we neglect, but it's good. Oh. That's cool. This is, I think, me and Yolanda's favorite question, so you can go ahead and start.
Oh, you just gonna throw the ball up in my court like that?
Yes, because you were like, yeah, you go start, and I'm gonna come and close.
Liberation is about being able to exist as you are authentically, you know, without being oppressed, without being exploited, being able to take care of yourself, being able to heal. And liberation for me is a collective action. Like when I think about freedom, for me, that's a personal action. But when I think about liberation, for me, it's about the collective. How do we meet the needs of our community? And like I said, give them the tools to be able to heal themselves, take care of themselves, to, you know, pursue their dreams and goals, to just be, you know, without the bullshit of the world.
Right. I definitely agree with Yolanda, and also say, like, I always think about liberation as like this collective journey, and they are like milestones on the way, but liberation really meaning like being both personal and collective. So like I know for like when people talk to me about liberation, I'm always like, I know what it looks like in my mind. Like liberation,
what does it feel like? That's also the question we have to ask.
Yeah, like I ask myself all the time, like, for me, like somebody who has some physical body stuff that I'm constantly battling, it for me, like, liberation looks like me not having to worry about that stuff. Like the world being set up in such a way that I can traverse and that people are making space for me. It looks like my skin always being on point and like highly nourished, because I'm not stressed over other things. Like I have the food that I need. I have the water that I need. I have the shea butter that I like. Like I have these things, and I'm not worried about access to them. Like these are ways in which liberation, and for my community, like liberation for me also is like this week, like I know I'm on the path to liberation, collective liberation, because people have been feeding me, and I have been feeding I've been taking care of other people. Like we are out here, like collectively making sure that folks are well, and so that's for me is like liberation. And it, like, what I love about Black Minimalists is like, yes, we as a collective, the three of us that are like at the helm of this work currently, have like shared definitions around liberation thoughts, but we want to know, like, Tanika and other folks that are listening, like, what are your definitions of liberation, and what is your work, and how do we support you in that work? That's like why that question and that part of the campaign, those questions were formulated, because we want to know what y'all got going on and how we can be
right
in service and in community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not to forget about, joy also within that liberation definition.
Yeah.
I think that's also important. We have enough, pain and trauma in the world. We want to create a world where there's more joy and celebration, as Kenya said.
Yes, joy, celebration, those are definitely markers of liberation for me. I don't we sorry, girl, get us together. Call us on it, because I want to name people the way that they want to be, the way they are named. But yeah, joy and liberation definitely being a centering space, and like that's another thing we want to see present, because we know that joy and celebration are a big part of sustainability. Miranda on Facebook is asking, what are some of the tools we can employ to represent as Black minimalists?
Well, first of all, your life is an example. Your life is an example to so many people you're influencing that you don't even know.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is, finding, your community, your local community, but also being, engaged and present in this community also.
Yeah.
There's lots of work to be done, everywhere. In your home, at your place of employment, in your community, in the, the internets of the world, the World Wide Web, and all over the world. There's lots of work to be done. So, going out there and, sharing your journey, but also living in a way that is sustainable for everyone.
Yeah, and like some tools that I think everybody forgets is these are not just Black minimalist tools, but like I feel like minimalism has brought my attention to these things. Rest is a tool like that you can employ to like maintain sustainability. Depth, joy, like good food, like the thing that I love about minimalism is it's always calling me back to like what is essential, like versus like what is the busyness and the loudness of this world. Like capitalism creates a lot of noise, but all of those things. Fry's chiming in by saying living consciously and mindfully, pursuing your dreams, being free from clutter, enjoying your life. There's so much. Like there's so many tools and like so many things that like people already know how to do. Like this is not a like you got to go get something. A lot of this is already within you, or at least that's my strong belief.
Right, and that actually sort of moves us into the next section, which is collaboration. That's another tool that you can use to represent as Black minimalists and to live more sustainably. We created this platform for y'all, and when we first started out, we wanted to tell your story. So we have the ebook Simply Black that features 14 Black women, one Black couple, but 13 other Black women, telling their stories about how they found minimalism and what impact it's had on their life. We also have a directory of like 250, content creators and brands who we feel share our values and who address minimalism from all the different perspectives. So even within the larger Black minimalist community, there are, micro communities. So there are people who talk about, environmental justice, environmentalism, and environmental sustainability. There are people who talk about, style. There are people who talk about spirituality. There are people who talk about, wellness and self-care and health and I don't know what else I'm forgetting. No, people who live in alternative dwellings, people who living in their vans or on school buses. Our community is so vast and varied. and a part of the work that we want to do is, we started, we have interviews, on the blog, we do interviews on the podcast, and, we do collaborative, meetups and events, but we want to highlight some of the micro communities that we have not highlighted just yet, in a more targeted way in this upcoming year.
Oh, yeah. And that's exciting because, like, I always tell people, like, Black folks are not a monolith. So, we know that Black minimalists are definitely not a monolith. And so we look forward to further exploring that. I just want to say, Takia, thanks for, like, sharing your definition of liberation, and, like, exploring alternative dwellings is exciting to hear about. And we're also hoping, like, to share more folks that are living in alternative dwellings, and, like, just, I think in some ways, I hate to use the language of normalizing, but just reminding folk that, like, we have ancestors and community that look like us that are doing things, like, who have done things. So we look forward to that. And I would also tell you that all the crew, like Yolanda, myself, and Farai, definitely would vibe with your definition of liberation. And liberation for me means flexibility and mobility, and to break free of mental chains, feeling like we need to acquire junk to prove that we are worthy of it. We all regularly check in around, like, just flexibility. Farai's a mom. Yolanda craves adventure. I always know my mental state based on the status of my house and my car. So, like, yeah, those things resonate.
Yeah, and also we want to know, like, if there's someone that, we haven't featured on one of our platforms yet, particularly in our alternative dwellings and environmentalism, if there are people that you want us to feature, if you are one of those people who lives in that particular lifestyle and you want to be featured, definitely hit us up, and also tell us, like, who that we haven't featured yet, are you interested in learning more about and having us collaborate with?
Yes. Like, we are all, like, there are lots of, like, lifestyle, I think, like, organizations or blogs that are on different social medias, but, like, when we say we want to hear from y'all, Fry just let me know, like, they want to talk to somebody who's doing alternative dwelling. Fry runs our incredible podcast, and, like, connect us with y'all people. If you're the person, let us know. If you know somebody, let us know.
Right. So maybe we can talk to the Rhizomatic Movement Bus. I'm not sure if you gave us your name earlier in the conversation, but if you didn't, can you please drop that?
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah, because I like to call
in the comments.
So yeah, we're definitely down for collaboration. And we also think collaboration is, like, essential to sustainability. Y'all, you can't do this work alone. I think even some of the story of, like, how Black Minimalists is off the ground and running is because Yolanda has done this work with other people. And so we gonna continue to do this work with more people, but we need y'all.
And again, it goes back to that question that we brought up earlier when we were starting out, is, like, how can we make this platform more available to you?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean, do you want to do an IG takeover? Do you want to do a live video on Facebook? Or do you want to do some type of creative content that you want us to, feature on our platforms? Like, how can we serve you?
Yeah. It's pronounced with a short I. So
I don't know what that means. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I'm a product of the American education system. We're gonna talk about how my phonetic tongue does not do what it's supposed to do.
So Celeste is not the correct pronunciation? Oh, okay. You're talking about for your name.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay, we out here winning. Okay, yeah. Connect with us though. Like hit us in our DM or send us an email because we would love to hear more about what you got going. Um, so we talked about collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Okay.
next?
Okay, so next is inclusion. And as I want to say, like, as soon as we posted the blog post, Kenya sent me this graphic from Citizen Well, I think.
Yeah.
And it said, inclusion implies that someone owns the table. And I just stepped back for a moment on that one. And we love to hear your thoughts on what you think about the word inclusion also.
Yeah. Definitely want to hear community thoughts.
Yeah. And we never want to make you feel or the community feel like we own Black Minimalists, the three of us. You know, we are currently responsible for operating and managing it, but we're very much open to servicing our community because without you, we don't exist.
Yeah. And like that's important, you know, like we want to be in conversation with you all and want to know. Yes, Miranda, I definitely feel like we need a new word. Like we want to hear what people have to say. Okay, so here, literally, so picture this, y'all. Yolanda and I worked on the blog for a while, came back, made edits together. Yolanda put it into the platform. We hit publish. I read the article. I feel good about it. I'm excited. I'm like, yes, we're introducing the framework. We are doing it. Hop on the Instagram stories. Shout out to Citizen Well, who's doing some really great like work around accessibility in yoga. And they had that thing about inclusion. And I was like, oh, wow. Like we struggled over words, I think, in thinking through the framework. And then also just trying to, like, even as we grow as an organization or as this community, like trying to figure out words to name a thing and to hold it. So yeah, I definitely think we need a new word because I think not only does inclusion point to like that somebody owns a table, I think inclusion sometimes doesn't point to the fact that maybe the table shouldn't even exist. Like maybe we're fighting over a thing or trying to include somebody in something that wasn't ours to begin with, or should not have actual ownership rights over. So yeah, I think that our work at Black Minimalists is super mindful, and there is serious invitation in our work. It's not. I'm always like, people ask me about like the amount of women that are involved, women or femmes with Black Minimalists, and I'm like, yeah, we're women and femme led, like, but I don't think it's an exclusive thing. I think that we've worked to like include other voices and still are very much open to that reality. But as I have this belief, and I almost say it, and if y'all don't agree, it's fine, that Black women and femmes are far more are set up in such a way to do some educational work and to help make social changes because of our life lived experiences. Like we have experiences to pull from that Black men do not, and white folks and other people have different experiences. Like Blackness comes with some things, and you learn some things from it. Womanhood comes with some things. Femininity comes with some things, and that's not to exclude other people and to say that other people can't be involved in social change work. It's just saying I have a unique equipping because of the body that I'm in to do this social change work. And I think that the cool thing is like within inclusion and intersectionality, like we're able to bring up certain topics or to approach certain things because of our life lived experiences.
Yeah, and also like we are the ones that show up most of the time. We show up and show out. So what we have become is very organic. And the majority of the people in our community are Black women and femmes. Yeah. By happenstance.
Yeah.
But the door is always open, and I think we talked about this a little bit before the chat, and I think that the word that perhaps we're looking for is equitable.
Yeah.
Versus inclusive.
Yeah.
And we're definitely, you know, open to exploring this more and learning more about it. You know, we're even open to like having the structure of Black Minimalists evolve. You know, we've talked about this too from way back to the beginning up until now. We still have conversations about it, about making Black Minimalists a collective.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're very open. Carl just asked if there were many Black men who have promoted minimalism. He said he doesn't see as many, and like they exist. Okay,
they do exist, and
they do exist.
Some of them are in our directory.
Yeah,
I mean, all of the ones that we have found are in our directory.
Yes, all the ones we have found are in our directory. I also think it's interesting. It's okay. I'm going to go ahead and say this because I think about it all the time. The minimalists are white men, and Black Minimalists is led by Black women and femmes. And so I think it's just an interesting dichotomy. I think Black men on the internet are doing lots of different things. And so like when you say like use the language of like promoting, I think I think there are a lot of folks, the more and more I meet people and like people that are listening to our podcast, and when I rock Black and Minimalist shirts, people will come up to me and like that I would have never thought of as minimalists, but they are on the internet doing other things. So there's also like that space of like not all like we have a platform that is very full, like is centered in like sharing and creating community around Black people and minimalism, and there are people that are online doing good work in the world or like living their lives or using internet for lots of different reasons that are not using the language of minimalism.
Right, and also just the term minimalism itself, you know, we use it because it helps to identify our people, but for our community do not identify as minimalists.
Yes.
And that's okay. Like, we connect with people via the work that they do and their values, and that's what's most important rather than what they call themselves.
Exactly. Anik just asked about talking more about using this platform to advocate for liberation through minimalism. And I would just say, like, Anik, that we are continuing finding more ways to, like, create space for liberation in the work that we do. The course that we taught back in April, that feels like a really long time ago.
It was.
There was a whole section around defining freedom and liberation, and I think one of the cool things that I've seen us do in the last couple of months is like promoting places and spaces where you can help support that work, that's good work that's already being done. We also like are very explicit in this, that like this definition around Black minimalism is like it's not just about you getting rid of clutter. Like it's you getting rid of things that don't serve you so that you can live a life where freedom is accessible, where liberation is accessible. And so things that people don't see us do publicly, but I think happen all the time for us, is that people hit us in the DMs and we low-key give free coaching through thinking through life and vocation and work. And then we often talk about like our Blackness and the ways in which we show up in the world and the ways in which we write as like being a pathway to liberation and an invitation
narrative.
Because narrative is important. And also where we continually hold, like the way that we're even trying to do our work and model our work, the reason we're having this live is to let folks know that like there are layers to this liberation journey. And so we don't want folks to fall into traps that we have fallen into, which is like fed by like capitalism and like thinking about producing and like being on a like being in a space where you allow maybe the name or the business of what you're doing to usurp the purpose. And so we're called back into the work of like being purposeful and calling other people into that space. And we just we're not going to play around with the fact that Black folks showing up and making choices with their lives and themselves, like making a definitive choice, living intentionally, living in alignment with your values, is a pathway to liberation and an invitation to other people in your lives.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm just looking at comments. That's all.
Okay, and going back to that narrative, sort of like the cornerstone, the roots of why Black Minimalists started was to tell our story. So there's a historical tradition within our community, of using narrative to, free ourselves, to say to the universe, to whomever, to ourselves that we exist. But I don't want us to think that narrative is just limited to writing. So, and if you ask a question, I know you're an artist. So, we're open to featuring, artists who interpret their definition of liberation through their art. Whatever it is that you do, and whatever it is, the work that you feel called to do in whatever format that it comes, we're definitely open to featuring it and showcasing it and collaborating with you and, having discussions about it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just, limited to writing, however you want to tell your story, we're open to, receiving it and presenting it.
Yeah, yes, that's definitely true. We have two other questions or things that are kind of sitting here. One is Tanika asks, what traps do you have we fallen into? And then Carl is asking again about what do you think the main objections of Black men with practicing minimalism?
Okay, can I go to Carl's question first, and then we can go to the traps?
Yeah.
So, Carl, I think you really should ask a Black man that question. I can't speak for them. I don't know why there aren't more Black males in the space. Like I said, we've always been open to that. We featured them where we find them. We collaborate on events like Soulful City in DC. That's a urban farming gardening organization. That's led by a Black man, and also the other organization that we work with through that same event, Hustlers to Harvesters. They are also Black men. So you gotta ask them about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I co-sign Yolanda, and I also say that I've dated a couple Black minimalists in the last Black minimalists, because can you date humans? And they don't use the language of minimalism, and are not thinking I'm a Black. So let me be clear, very distinctly clear. I'm a Black minimalist. So my choice and intention to live this way is a pathway to liberation. That's what that is for me. So that's very clear, and I feel like that's tied up in my definition of Black minimalism. However, these Black minimalists that I've dated in the last couple of years, they're just like, I'm just trying to save up to get my business license or to do this work in the world. And so when I would talk about the work that I was doing with Black minimalists, they were intrigued, but they were also not searching for that, because their minimalism wasn't necessarily founded in community or founded in the same spaces in which mine was. So that's just something to think about. But I definitely feel like ask a Black man. And if you are a Black man that wants to talk about this, then let's do a live that's just about that.
Right.
Because I'm down to do we're when we say we're down to collaborate. First of all, Yolanda, we're not getting through all the questions tonight. Just
I know. I mean, we're probably going to do 2 parts because Instagram's going to cut us off.
Yeah.
In a little bit.
So yeah, we're definitely cool with having a live with a Black minimalist or a couple of male Black men minimalists and having conversation, because it's real, and they can tell their story way better than we could ever. So that's that. I'm gonna jump back to Tanika's question around Takia. Help me, y'all. First of all, let it be said, phonetically, I will butcher everyone's name.
She spelled it out phonetically for us.
She did, but I'm trying to tell people like that my tongue and my brain don't remember things. And that's like charge it to my heart and not my head. I'm also like preparing to go travel for a funeral, so my brain is here, but my heart is elsewhere. In some ways. So traps that we fell into.
You're saying once we started our minimalist journeys, what type of traps do we fall into?
I think that's the question. I think that's the traps came up around also when we were talking about like doing the work. And like I remember saying that thing about like sometimes the business of the thing. Thank you. Right out here spilling tea. It also came up when I said like sometimes you'll get so caught up in doing the thing for the sake of doing it and not the purpose that you're doing it for.
Okay.
So I mentioned capitalism. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think speaking of Black Minimalists as a business, and even using that word feels somehow, I don't know. There's issues around that word.
There's so many issues with that word.
But I think that one of the traps that we fell into as creating this organization, this platform, is that thinking that we had to operate in similar ways as other, I guess, digital entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs, in terms of marketing, sales, and branding and things of that nature. I definitely think that's a trap that has held us up sometimes in certain spaces, or when we're trying to work through certain things. Social media is real. That's another trap.
Yeah. Fry mentioned comparing ourselves to others. Yeah, but here's like we were trying to compare ourselves to people, but then we're not that thing either. Like, so I think Black Minimalist is this unique thing. That's why it's hard for us to say like a business, because we out here like building community. We out here challenging things. We out here inviting folks on a path to liberation, and that is not the same thing as a business. I mean, we
don't want to be in the business of liberation, because liberation is not a business. I mean, I feel like the word business has capitalist roots anyway.
Yes. And Farai's right that we're all like low key hate being online. Like, okay, so I love being online. Like, I love connecting with the community, but also like we have values that call us into like deep things. Farai spends a lot of time gardening and like with her child, and is interested in herbalism, and Yolanda is a traveler. Like we have other passions beyond just Black Minimalists. And so I think that the trap of trying to maintain a thing just can get you. And when I say capitalism, I want to be very clear about what I also mean by capitalism. So I don't just mean like business parts of capitalism. I mean like the fact that capitalism conditions you to believe that if you are not moving, then you are not well. Like that you're not doing something. Like that you're not productive. That like even a language of productivity, like that kind of thing. Because I mean, we have been in community with people. We have sat at table with people and ate meals together. We have helped people think through life transitions and stuff as a community. Like there are beautiful, intimate things that have happened as a result of Black Minimalists, not just within our like larger online community or our collective, but like as a team that I think we were undervaluing because we were using capitalist standards, not because we like love capitalism, but because capitalism is the air that we breathe. And we have to be actively not doing that work, like actively trying to get away from those narratives and those things. So those are some of the traps that we fell into. It was really helpful. That's why the framework is helpful, right? So we can like be like checking ourselves around falling into traps or just prioritizing other things that that's not what we actually want.
Yeah, and we probably could go on about capitalism
the whole
even
time.
more. And we will, actually. We are going to have a conversation about capitalism, and we are calling on you all to hold us accountable to having this conversation and like recording it, because we've been talking about having it for a long time, and we haven't gotten to it, but we are always talking about it. So yeah, keep us accountable. It's coming.
Oh yes, keep us accountable. And like this is Farai's point around that also our personal struggles have stopped us or slowed us down from doing the work. It's also why we want to have the conversation about capitalism and have the conversation about doing good work in the world, because realistically there has to be, like, sustainably, there has to be pause and there has to be adjustment based on what else is on your plate, what else is going on. And I think we just have been wired to think that we're supposed to show up. Like, I have not taken any time to like grieve for the funeral that I'm getting ready to go to. So I'll go to the funeral. But like, things impact your brain. Like, things impact your brain living of this life. And so we definitely want to have a conversation about capitalism. We definitely hope that you hold us accountable and to show up. I'm like wondering where we are, Yolanda, in our stuff, because I'm mindful that we are both on Instagram and on Facebook, and y'all show up and show out for us in ways that like always continually amaze me, because I feel like, yeah, we'll have to have a part 2, but we might have to, like, I don't know.
Well, I think we are somewhere, we kind of the conversation sort of went over spaces and went to sustainability, because we talked about capitalism sort of within sustainability. Yeah. So we kind of covered that situation. So we have spaces and then reflection, that's really it. I think that the next, lives that we have, we can dig in more specifically just on one of these topics. But I think we can get through the overall framework tonight, perhaps.
We'll see.
All right. Y'all stop asking us all these good questions.
Listen, I was like, I forget for a minute. Yeah, Anik, we're literally thinking through the next class that we're gonna do, next iteration of Black and Minimalists. So
I'm not gonna ask that. So okay, we are going to offer Black and Minimalist again live. Black and Minimalist is always open. If you want to take the course at any time, you can do self-study. It's always open. But we are going to offer another live version of Black and Minimalist starting at the end of January. But we are also thinking about, another course that we'd like to do perhaps more long-term, like 6 to 12 months maybe, where we tackle like a topic a month, sort of like a study group, but an opportunity for us to dig into these topics like capitalism, like I don't know, communal living, and things of that nature, more in depth, and invite people from our community who are experts in these things to come on and speak about it.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in the class, I'm sorry, y'all, I didn't eat well today. If you're interested in the class, then comment, right? And hit our DMs and let us know that you want a longer class, or
let us know if that's something you're interested in or what you're actually interested in. We're also going to do a survey before the year's over so that we can get this information, but you can also just comment anywhere, Facebook, Instagram, send us an email, info@blackminimalist.net, to let us know, what you want.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, Zoom-based calls or like a group call dynamic could definitely be something that we would love to do. We've used Facebook a lot, but I'm open to other platforms and figuring that out.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about reflection. Since we're getting to the end, let's talk about that part. So reflection and, celebrating or mourning whatever the results of the process are, learning how to integrate what we've learned into our ongoing work, that has been a challenge for us. I think actually developing this framework is probably the first time we've actually gone in depth and reflected on everything that we do and what we want to do. And we also took a hiatus this summer from, publicly posting and creating content. But also perspective. Reflection part of it, we realized that we left a part of this framework out, which is a separate, not just the reflection part, but a separate space, time for, resting and healing. If we aren't taking care of ourselves, then how are we really going to do this work and get free?
Yeah. I mean, a couple things I think that are helpful to understand. Like, our team are in their 30s or
almost there.
Like, so we've been on the planet for a little bit. And I think what's interesting is like this framework and our work together has made us stop and have to ask questions like, how do we celebrate? Yolanda helped me declutter parts of my apartment. And we were like, we should celebrate. What do we want to do? Which is a good question or whatever. But it was interesting because it took me a minute to land on like, well, what is appropriate or what feels good or what feels right. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just really excited about that. That's a part of our framework of asking the question for that, but also like building in the space for the actual mourning, for the celebration, because I think so often we will skip right over it. And I think that celebration and the mourning are deeply connected to like the rest and the healing. Like if you don't ever celebrate, you probably also aren't ever resting. Because if you celebrate well, your body's going to ask you to lay down. Mm-hmm. Your body's going to ask for stillness. Same thing with mourning. Like, y'all know what I mean. Maybe y'all don't, but I know. You know, it's like to cry so much that your brain like kind of like flatlines, and that you have to like you can't. Your body won't allow you to do anything else. So those things are just important. I don't think you can get to collective liberation without rest, healing, joy, and like mourning. I just don't think you're going to get there. And I don't think
get to integration for sure.
Ooh, baby, ooh, integration.
So yeah, and I think we're just also conditioned to keep going and going. Like, and again, it goes back to capitalism. You know, capitalism is a philosophy, it's a belief system, and it's also an economic system. And capitalism conditions us to keep going and never rest.
That's
because if we're resting, then we're not being productive.
Listen, and like check yourself. Like, pay attention, y'all. Pay attention. Like, what are your days like? When do they start? When do they end? What are the rituals? Where's the spaces? Because it's like not just like it's for us as an individual, but also like in your work, like if the people that you work with in this life, and I'm not talking about like paid work, just paid work, but I'm talking about like the people that you do life with. If y'all don't ever have no rituals of rest, celebration, people don't like you being upset, like that's not a space where you can be well.
It's true.
Ooh, I like that you marinate. Yes, I like that. I like marination and thought around rest and healing and celebration.
Yeah, we hope you all have enjoyed this conversation. It's been very good. Like, this was dope for real. And the very end of the framework is to, after you rest and heal, is to start over again. So we're going to be doing just that. We are going to be using this framework to sort of develop and flesh out our community ambassador groups. We haven't settled on a name for it yet. I think I guess community ambassador groups is going to be the name for it. But we will be using this framework to flesh that out, and then we will be posting what we come up with publicly, and then we will go through this process again.
And we want you to like journey with us on that.
Mm-hmm.
So if this conversation was helpful for you, if it like gave you something to think about, if you like are more jazzed about minimalism or just your own journey because of it, what I need you to do is to share this information with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't hold this work unto yourself. And then also like if you are interested in like our community ambassador program, I guess that's what we calling it. Yeah, we try to figure this thing out.
Yeah,
like hit us up, email, DM, comment on this video so that we know that people are like, get y'all with us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to be. We think that community groups and like being with you in person are like top value and priority, but if that's not it, let us know. Like let us know, because we want to, like, this community doesn't exist because Yolanda, Kenya, and Farai need a hobby. It exists because we're trying to cultivate community and like bring forth liberation in the world. So
thank you. Thank you for your great questions. You've given us more stuff to think about and talk about and write about and collaborate with some folks on. Enjoy your evening. Get some rest and healing before you do whatever you got to do tomorrow. And we'll see you next time.
Yes, we will. We'll be back to talk about community ambassador program or something labeled similarly. Bye, y'all.
Peace out.